Hello folks, welcome to Barlow Country Club in Derbyshire. It's a venue I actually caught my first ever fish from some 26 years ago I think now. I was 7 at the time and I'm 33 now, so a fair few years ago, but to be honest, other than a few extra lakes, the charm of this place hasn't changed. It's just a lovely place to come fishing. I've been in the office all day doing a bit of editing and I thought a bit like the canal session really, if you've seen the video on that. I just thought I'd bring the GoPro down and we'd have a little fish and see what we catch and have a little natter. So it's got a little bit of the old red Fjuka 2in1 this time. Just gonna flick that in, feed a little bit of bait. Always like to start the session feeding quite sort of gingerly. Bite straight away. Maybe no need to be too ginger tonight, but I never like to overgun it straight away. That's my point. It's much better, I think, to take your time, feed a little bit of bait and feel your way into a session. That's quite a nice roach there. In fact, I might even need the disgorger for that one. So you obviously wanted to eat it. Where's the disgorger gone? Here it is. Straight down with it, that was. That's one thing with Barlow, it's got a big head of lovely silvers, a lot of roach, a lot of skimmers, as well as a fair few other fish, a few surprises. I've got to be honest though, as often as I have been to Barlow, I've never fished this lake before. This, from memory, it's about the newest lake on the site, this one. Right at the top of the coarse ponds as they used to be. There's 3 of them. Oh, they are unpulled, you'll have to count. In fact, there's a few fish there and feeding. I'm chucking bait in the reeds, which is never ideal. Lovely bite though. Look at that, another big roach. I'll tell you what, I'd take these all night. Look at them. Are they 4 or 6 ounce each? That's a rudd, that one, tell a lie. It's a rudd. Got the bottom lip on him. Angry little character. So, yeah, all I'm doing, I'm fishing a single piece of the red 2-in-1 on the hook, feeding the same, keeping things a bit simple. Just quite a couple of hours chilling out really, catching a few fish. We'll try this time and not chuck our bait in the lilies, because really I want the feed to be this side of where I'm fishing. Another bite straight away. And I want to feed away from the lilies and sort of present my bait ideally in between the lilies and where I'm feeding, and that way you sort of get the optimum situation where the fish have got the cover, and the sanctuary of the lilies, but at the same time, because you're feeding away from the lilies, you're encouraging them to come out. If you have to fish too close to the lilies, a little piece on the hook like that. If you fish too close to the lilies, you can sometimes encounter problems when you hook bigger fish. Obviously fish dragging you through the lilies, which is never ideal. So just flicking that rig in front, feed a little bit of bait. Still haven't got my eye in with this feeding, folks. Absolutely useless. You can tell I've not been fishing much. Oh, lovely clean bite though there. Don't think it matters too much. I think there's a fair few fish there. Oh. Indications all the time on that float. Oh, what a nice clean bite. That's the great thing about this place though. It's not, you know, it's just nailed on for a lovely evening or afternoon session. You can guarantee plenty of bites. What a nice clean bite. Not a big fish, but another little roach I think, but hey, most welcome. Look at him, and the top lip. It's my favourite kind of fishing, to be honest. Well, no, I've spread the shot out on the rig. I think that's quite important. It's a shotting pattern I use an awful lot, sort of a strung out pattern, especially when you're fishing for a real mix of species like we are tonight, where from roach to, you know, from avid bottom feeders, you might call them, like tench. I think there's a few tench in here, and There's a few carp in here as well, but from species that we know feed on the bottom to you know, species that we think feed a little bit higher in the water. Look at that. These fish must be absolutely ravenous. Look at him. I think we've got a bonus going that from Fjuka 2in1 stayed on the hook there, so we can go straight back in. Yeah, it's and the nice thing about a strong rig, you can really search the water column. So if you don't like tonight, you know, you turn up, you don't know quite what you're fishing for, you don't know what you can expect to catch. It just lets you really cover your options and just find out what's down there, what's feeding. I mean, say for example, if these silvers were a bit smaller than they are, they're quite a nice stamp, so I'm quite happy catching them. But if they were tiny and you were trying to maybe present more bait on the bottom and bomb a bigger rig down to them, then I'd probably push the shot closer together. That was a lovely positive bite there. There's a fair few fish there, I think. Yeah. It's important when you know there are fish there feeding there. You've got to keep that bait trickling in, because obviously it's all about bringing fish in and encouraging them to compete. Oh, there's a little dink then. Oh, a little weed or something around the hook there. Just give it a dab on the water. It's come off. Should really come back when you get a bit of weed on your hook and just check that you've not got anything flexing the covering the hook point, should I say. But because tonight's just about having a bit of fun and we're only pleasure fishing, I'm more than happy to give it the benefit of the doubt. Loads of indications. Starting to wonder what sort of stamp of fish we've got here, because obviously we've had some nice roach, but nothing bigger yet. Wondering how long it's going to be before them bigger fish muscle in, if they do. Oh, that one pulled the elastic out. It's another roach though, I think. Lovely fishing though, just what you need after a day in the office. Well, that one's in the top lip, look. Always know you can swing them when they're in the top lip. Look at that beauty. Oh, aren't they great? Lovely fish. Right, so what we'll try and do then, just to play devil's advocate, because we can, we're going to feed a bit heavier now, a bit more aggressively, and we're going to see if we can bring some bigger fish in. Now, I've spoke before on some of my videos and some of the articles I've done in the magazines about competition. Now that's the crux of fishing really. It's all about getting fish competing, and the better you can get fish competing for bait, the easier they are to catch. And so obviously I mentioned starting off feeding little bits of bait quite regularly, which is always I would start, because you never know in fishing, even if you think you know, even if you're almost sure you're going to go in and bag up. It's amazing how many times it doesn't happen like you think it's going to happen. So I'd always like to start feeding more positively, nice little dink, sorry, less positively, more regularly, little bits of bait to build up a peg and find out what's there. But when you know there's a good head of smaller fish there, by being a little bit more aggressive, you are making sure there's some bait on the bottom for maybe some bigger fish to come in as well. So if you believe that every piece of bait you're feeding is getting eaten by something smaller, it just makes sense to be a little bit more positive, a little bit more aggressive. Gives you the chance of drawing some better fish into the peg. You see that I fed quite heavily. That was a nice positive bite. Don't know if it's a bigger fish. No, it's not. It's another similar size. So that's one thing you can sort of play with. Lovely roach then. In a match situation, you'd just be dead happy catching them. You'd just quite literally keep catching them. I mean, they must average 4 to 6 ounce each. So, you know, you can't turn your nose up at them. So again, we're going to try being a little bit more aggressive with the bait, with the feeding. I always think when you are more aggressive, it pays to feed when your rig's not in the water, just because when you've got a lot of bait falling through the water, it's an absolute nightmare sometimes for foul hookers and line bites and that sort of thing. So I always tend to feed and then follow the bait in with my rig. Again, see that quite a big false indication there. Probably be better off just waiting a second before I went in with my rig there, but sometimes you just can't resist the temptation. You want to get in and you want to get fishing, don't you? The other thing that we can play with is depth of water. Like, for example, oh, a nice bite. Don't think it's a bigger fish though. For example, we know this is a nice roach. We know that, you know, we're feeding there in about, what's that, 3 foot of water, maybe a bit less actually. It's not very deep. You see that? So, you know, and certain species of fish are feeding in that depth. It can sometimes be the case that if you try shallower water, or if it's harder work, if you're not catching many, if it's the opposite end of the spectrum to what we've got at the minute, deeper water, then you catch different species of fish. But as I said, I'm not actually too worried about changing what I'm doing, because it's nice fish to catch roach, aren't they? So I think we're just going to suck it and see for 5 or 10 minutes, keep feeding a bit more and just see if anything bigger comes in, because it's also the case often that inquisitive fish back off bait, so bigger, more wary fish will naturally sometimes take a little bit longer to come in. So we'll do this for 10 minutes, then we might change. Oh, that was a better fish with another roach, but hook bait's still on, which is nice. So we have started doing, anybody who's messing about with a Fjuka like I am, got one of these EVA tubs, just a Mazzella one that, but Guru do them, Preston do them, all the major companies do them. I've just put my 2-in-1 in there. It just helps keep it dry when it's raining like this, so it doesn't get, when it gets wet, it just go a little bit slimy. And vice versa, you know, if it's a hot day, it stops it from drying out. A nice little dink. But again, it's another roach. It's slightly overgun the old elastic for roach, I'm afraid, but when you're fishing next to lilies, that bait's still on. You never know what you're going to hook next to you, so you might as well give yourself a chance of landing something bigger if you hook it. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And oh, nice little dink. We'll talk about river fishing. It's interesting, in lockdown, you know, I'd made my mind up to, or before lockdown, should we say, in the sort of early part of the year, January, February, March, I'd made my mind up that I wanted to focus primarily, that's a bigger fish. Sometimes it does just take them a little bit longer to come. It might even be a bigger roach though, it's not supposed to be a... It is, it's a big roach, look at that. Oh yeah, look at him. Now, why would you want to feed them off? They're just an absolute joy to catch. Look at the mark under his chin, orange mark. Some of them get that. Used to be this time of year. That does. The stamp of it though, it's an old fish, that is, old wily fish. He's not been caught too many times. Right. Sorry, I lost my track, you know, my train of thought with nattering on. Yeah, river fishing. I was all set before lockdown to basically just go commercial fishing. That was my plan. But it's weird how being denied fishing for a few months, as we were with the lockdown, it sort of changed my thought process really. And more than any kind of fishing, I've missed river fishing, which is unusual because actually I wouldn't have been able to go river fishing in that time frame anyway. From March to June, the rivers are closed, it's a closed season. But yeah, I don't know, I suppose my plans were shattered by the lockdown. What I was planning to do was change. And it made me really sort of think about the kinds of fishing I enjoy the most. So this is a lovely little session at Barlow, catching fish, natural surroundings, and I suppose it's about as close as you can get to pick a fish. close as you can get. Pull it away from the reeds there. Don't know what it is. Still not sure. Could be a cruey or a fantail looking at it. Now this is where they get naughty, where they try and take you in the reeds. Yes. Well, look at that. That's another really old fish. But a lovely crucian. Probably, I don't know, pound? Maybe a bit less. Slipping back. Yeah, I've really been looking forward to getting back on the rivers, and from June the 16th that's what we'll be able to do. But somewhere like Barlow, I think, an old established fishery like this, with a good head of mixed silvers, it's about as close as you can get to, you know, fishing a river. Other than, of course, it's not moving, but it's natural. You're out in the sticks. I don't know, not many people as well, that's important. I know social distancing's made us all mega aware of that really, but there is something about having a lake to yourself, or certainly a good area of a lake to yourself when you come pleasure fishing. And often on river matches, the way they're pegged, you've got a lot more room anyway, you know. Probably that solitude thing, it's probably that I miss, but that's going to be my campaign anyway this year. From June the 16th, my max fishing anyway will be 99% done on rivers. I'm going to fish the Western Pools festivals. What a nice bite. Another roach though, I think. It's the Western Pools festivals to help sort of run them through work, which I always enjoy. And then cracking roach. And then I'm fishing a team of 4 event on the tidal Trent. It's myself, Matt Godfrey, Lee Kerry and James Dent. So I've got to get my finger out and not let the team down on that one. And that'll be the summer, I think, for me, really. Evesham Angling Festival, a little dabble at that. They're always lovely matches. If you like a beer, well, I'm saying if you like a beer, presuming that maybe the pubs might be open by, I don't know, late July. If you like a pint and fishing like I do, that is a great place to stay. Loads of pubs. Fishing's hard, it's hard fishing Evesham, but it's rewarding. You know, special venue really, because you know, it's about the only river I know where it can literally be won with any species of fish within reason. You know, bream, I've seen it won with bream, chub, barbel, roach, I've seen it won with tench, carp, bleak. I've never seen it won with bleak, but I've seen some big weights on bleak. I said big weights, not big weights by Y standards, but big weights in the context of the matches. 7-8 pound of bleak, which can be enough to win. Looks slightly better fish. See what I mean about the feeding though? We've kept that bait going in. It's another big roach. We've kept that bait going in, and all of a sudden the last 2 of the last fish we've had have been good ones. That's a really nice roach. Look at that one. That's over a pound, I'd say. Right in the top lip. My mate Joe Carras always said to me when I was younger, when we used to talk about fishing, if you're hooking fish in the top lip like that, if you're nailing them, you know your feeding's not far off right. And I think that's a very true adage. Another piece of the red 2-in-1 on the hook. Just going to feed. Get a bit more positively. We seem to have got that about right now. Got some better fish coming in, which is nice. Back in we go. Flick that rig in front of me. So yeah, Evesham, it can really be won with any species of fish. Hard fishing, but you're always in it, you know? You're always one bite off winning, normally. Oh, what a nice little dink. And as it happened for me last year, one bite were all it took in the final on the Wychavon final on the Saturday. Didn't have a bite for. Well, I did. I had some small fish early, but I didn't have a proper fish until 40 minutes to go, and then the oh, that was a nice bite. And then the rod hoop round, large barbel, £8.14. Was enough to win the match, £2.5 grand. Thank you very much. But the trophy was nice as well to win. You know, the Wychavon Championship. It's a prestigious match. I was honoured. Look at them beauties. Oh, I've got to say, folks. You know, I think I said this on the canal as well when we were down there. We don't, well, I don't as an angler do this often enough. You've got to make sure while you've got some free light, some light evenings, get out on the bank and go fishing, because before we know it again, we'll be creeping into August and September and the nights will be drawing in. You won't be able to do this, it'll be dark now. So just make sure you make the most of it. Right, I've knocked my tub over, I've messed myself up here now. The Fjuka's gone everywhere. A little bit more bait there, we'll bite straight away. Again, we can be really positive. I think it's because we've got the luxury of having this lake to ourselves. We haven't booked the lake or anything, we've literally turned up this afternoon, and there's quite a lot of anglers on all the other lakes here, but this one, for some reasons, nobody on it. And when you've got that bit of space, when there's not as much angling pressure, you can afford to, as I said, once you've felt your way into the session, you can often afford to be a bit more positive. Because every feeding fish on this lake, in theory, should come to me. Now, if I, nice positive bite, if I feed more positively, they should come in. Oh, that one came off. It's not what you want. One other little thing about the Fjuka I just want to mention, something that a few people have been having trouble with, including myself when I first started using it. The temptation is, because it's pellet shaped, to hook it like a soft pellet, like through the barrel. You're much better off just nicking it on. So much more, imagine a bit more like how you might hook a maggot. I'll just show you what I mean. It's not really rolled into the bait too much. I don't know if you can see that. Sort of nicked through the edge more than rolled around the shank as you would with an expander pellet. Obviously, if you want it to stay on the hook, if you say you're fishing long pole and another one on the bite, on the drop there, fishing long pole and you're wanting to, another good roach, I think. Yeah, and you're wanting it to stay on the hook, then you can do that. But if I'd have pulled that to, oh, don't tell me the pole's got stuck. No, I can do without that. Good, I think. If I'd have lost my train of thought. 1 second. 1 second. Let me get my ribbon back. It's actually a hybridisational. That is a hybrid. Look at him. Yeah, if I'd have hooked that Fjuka then like a pellet, rolled it round the hook, and so almost buried the majority of the hook body in the Fjuka, I wouldn't have hooked that fish. You almost need to think of it like a maggot. I'll show you again. Just nick it. I hope you can see that. Nick it on the hook. Leave plenty of point showing, plenty of shank showing. See if we can get this pole apart, whether it's stuck. It might be stuck. Leave plenty of point showing, and that way you'll hit more bites when you're doing this kind of fishing. And conversely, if you want the Fjuka to stay on when you're fishing long, and maybe you expect it to be a little bit longer before you get bites, which obviously gives the Fjuka time to soften up naturally, then obviously you can afford to bury it like you would with a pellet. But just something to think about. I think because it looks like a pellet in terms of its shape, its barrel-like shape, the tendency is for anglers to think that it behaves like a pellet under the water, but that's just not the case. That one is. Another roach, I think, maybe. I feel like I'm playing it like a bit of a... Oh, I forgot, the pole stuck in it. Oh. Off at the number 4. The only problem when it's wet, I have a tendency to really jam the pole sections together. You don't need to. Tell you what, so glad I came out for an hour. Might be chucking it down with rain, but it's just lovely to be here. Don't know whether there's any bigger fish in this lake or whether it's all them sort of nice sized Crucians and hybrids and Roach, but I've got to be honest folks, if that's what it is, I'm more than happy. Absolutely awesome fishing. Flick that in front, feed, good quantity of bait there. Again, if you can, always feed away from the reeds and present your bait, your rig, in between where you're feeding and where the lilies are. I always imagine it like you're trying to draw some fish out of the lilies. Today, it's not like that at all. It's more like the fish wanting to eat the bait. It's very good fishing. So, to be honest, if I was having any problems with the reeds, if the fish were taking me, lilies should I say, if I was having any trouble with the lilies and the fish were taking me into them, then I'd just feed well away from them and make sure that you know, there were no danger of that. When you've gone competing like these fish obviously are, you don't have to worry about that at all. It's just about feeding where you want to catch the fish, and they will come to it when it's good fishing. But as I said, don't take that for granted. It's always worth starting off a little bit more cagily. Oh, nice bite that one. Smaller fish though. Oh, angry fish though. Keep forgetting, got a pole stuck together. That's because it's wet, you see. What happens? The joint gets stuck. And this top 6 I've got here is about the oldest, most battered top 6 that I've got for my pole. It's a really old one. I just keep it for pleasure fishing, because when you're on a canal like I was the other night, or somewhere like that, you don't know who's might be running up and down the towpath. There's always a risk it can get broken. So my pleasure fishing setup, which is my hot box light here, this little Daiwa top kit, and oh, nice dink there. Daiwa top 6. I just keep them in a ready rod bag. I haven't even got a proper pole bag for this setup, but I found that by doing that, by sort of making myself a lightweight, quick and easy way to go fishing with it all there just ready to go, I'll actually go fishing of an evening. If it were a case of getting all my match gear out and carting a big seat box to the fishery, then I probably wouldn't bother, because it's just a lot of faffing, isn't it, of an evening? You've got to make it easy for yourself. Oh, really? I've missed 3 or 4 bites there, so that either tells me that my feeding's not quite right anymore, or something's changed. Maybe I just deep pumped that Fjuka a little bit too much. Can't see why I'm missing all these bites. Let's just flick it past. I'm going to feed some more bait in a minute though, so I want to try and keep them down. Let's feed down there. Oh, what's that? 20 bits of Fjuka. Fed it over and then it was sticking to my palm. I'm trying to show it to you, want the best idea. Especially when you can't throw overhand. Not even that good at throwing underhand, to tell the truth. Little break there folks, just had the owner James came round and a little chat with him. Right, straight away there, dropping back in though. Keeping that bait going through. Bear in mind I've not fished for 5 minutes and it's still there, look. Oh, well that one is. Another big roach. Lovely fish. Look at them. Right, I'll keep forgetting. The pole's stuck together. Should really try and get it apart, but I've always found you're best off being a bit patient with them, because when you know you've got a peg full of fish, you're always keen to get back in, aren't you? I'm going to catch 5 more, and then I'm going to sign off for this little session. So yeah, my fishing through the summer, Western Pools, Evesham and Tidal Trent. Through the winter, might interest you to know, I've got my Hawkoff team of the 4 that I'm doing, which is filling up already, by the way. But then I've also been talking to James about potentially doing some winter matches here. So the new bailiff, Alan, he's a keen angler as well. So me and him might have something in the pipeline for some winter matches here at Barlow, and if we do them, they'll be good. The sport here, I can tell you, silverfish sport, second to none, what you can see, can't you? It's absolutely teeming with fish. Nice positive bite there. Oh, small fish. The way that went under, I thought it was a big one, but as long as you can always see up to that top lip, you can always swing them. That's a good bit of advice. When you bring them in, Roach, and you think, oh, is it a net or a swinger? If it's up to the top lip, normally you're safe to pull it a bit. Right, that was one. 4 more to go, folks. I don't know where we're going to go next week, but I'll think of somewhere. Oh. Tell you where I wouldn't mind going, Crooks Valley Park. Now that's a venue that, right in the centre of Sheffield. Big old reservoir kind of thing, but also a park lake. It's a really interesting place. Very, very hard fishing though. Can't guarantee we'll catch a lot, but we can certainly go and try. Interesting fishing. It's all fish there. It's all steps as you go down, so you can get into pretty much whatever depth of water you want. And a lot of big roach, a lot of carp. As I said, it's quite tricky. We might go there, or I might think of somewhere else. The other place I fancy going, I've got a lake right at the bottom of my garden. Oh, not bottom of my garden, bottom of my road, called Carter Hall Fishery. That's quite nice. Nailing that on the drop. Be nice to catch a couple more good fish before we sign off. Oh, missed that one. Loads of indication. Tiny fish, that one. One of the smallest fish of the day, I reckon. That's because that last time I fed then, it went absolutely everywhere. I don't even notice that. It's getting a bit damp and sticking to the old fingers as I'm throwing it out, so I might just try and sort that out. Give it a little shuffle down the packet. There we are. So, remembering what we said earlier, just nicking a piece of 2-in-1 on the hook. Out we go. Flicking the rig well past the pole tip, feeding, I don't know, 10 bits of bait. Well, I'll pull the elastic out again. And that's the importance of just nicking it. It's leaves that hook shank exposed. It just means that you can love the fish. It just means that when a fish takes the bait, similar to what with a maggot hooked through the point or even through the blunt end, as long as it's just nicked on the hook, you'll hook them. Bury the hook, you don't get that. Nick it on. Out we go. Flick the rig out past the pole tip. 10 or 15 bits of bait. Bite straight away. 3 fish, isn't it? What did we say we'd have? 5 fish, didn't we? Keep forgetting about that pole section. What went on there? Well, it was an unusual splash. We'll net him anyway. Good swung him. He's in the top lip. Can't knock an evening catching them, can you? Right. 2 more, isn't it? 2 more and we're there. Nick it on. There we go. Ten bits of Fjuka. Now I'm trying to pull my elastic out there, distracted me. small fish that. The only problem with this wet weather, you do get a few stickages when it comes to the pole section. Little rud. What, we've got one more on, is it now, or two more? I think we'll give ourselves two more. I can't count to 5. Or can I? Two more fish. That one don't count, does it? So next week, we've got kind of busy week actually coming up. We've got Fjuka filming at Aston Park, Western Pools Garbalino Team Championship to run. Wickersley Angling, got some filming to do for them next week, on Tuesday as well. So it's going to be a busy one. Hopefully we'll find time to sneak out for another nice little evening session. Like a nice fantail to end on, or a tench. Oh, I'll pull the elastic out. A little lift and drop when you don't get a bite. Not that getting a bite's be a problem tonight, but if you don't get a bite, a little lift and drop is a great way just to... Oh, loads of indications there. Nice bite. The owner's coming past a minute, I think. Some of you might recognise him. James has been on Apprentice, Big Brother, quite a few things. Lovely lad, really nice. I'm doing a great job here at the fishery. Look at that fish. Take care, mate, see ya. Get about that pole being stuck, don't we? Oh, look at that. Nice roach. If I could catch one fish for the rest of my life, that'd be what it'd be. Just look at her. Bloody lovely. Red Fjuka 2-in-1, nailed in the top lip. What more can you ask for? This is going to have to be the last fish of the night though, folks. Out we go. Flick it past. Feed a little bit of bait. So many fish there. I'd say it's odds on we're going to end on a roach, wouldn't you? I have just flicked that dangerously towards the reeds though, so who knows what might... Oh, what a nice bite. I think one of the reasons that lifting and dropping and laying the rigging is so good with this stuff, you do get like a little white plume off it when you... Yeah, it's a roach. You get like a little white plume off it if you wash it in the edge of it. Every time you move the bait, keep forgetting about that bloody pole, don't I, folks? Come here. Well, that'll ding dang do. Don't know how long we've been fishing, half an hour, 40 minutes I guess. Probably had 8 or 9 pound of silvers in that time, but lovely stamp fish. Thanks for watching, folks, and try and get this pole apart without breaking it. And we'll see you next week.